Chapter 9. When letting go is the next step forward. Somewhere along the way, we learn that holding on is a virtue, that persistence, commitment, and loyalty are signs of strength. We hear stories of those who endured hardship and were rewarded in the end. Athletes who trained for years before winning a championship, business leaders who pushed through failure before success, relationships that weathered storms and came out stronger. But what we don't hear as often are the stories of those who let go, the ones who walked away, the ones who stopped fighting for something that no longer served them, the ones who, instead of forcing an old dream to fit, made space for a new one. Letting go isn't celebrated the way perseverance is. It's misunderstood, sometimes seen as giving up, as failing, as taking the easy way out. But in reality, knowing when to hold on and when to let go is one of the most difficult and essential skills we can develop. Because growth isn't just about adding, it's also about releasing. And sometimes, the hardest step forward is deciding that what once served you no longer does. Why we hold on, even when we shouldn't. There's a concept in psychology called the sunk cost fallacy. The tendency to continue investing in something just because we've already put time, money, or effort into it. It's why people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that no longer bring them joy, or projects that drain them instead of inspiring them. The logic is simple. I've already given so much to this. Walking away would mean all of that was for nothing. But here's the truth. Continuing down the wrong path doesn't make the past investment more valuable. It just prolongs the loss. In 2020, The Guardian published an article about entrepreneurs who walked away from businesses they had spent years building. Some were once successful but had outlived their relevance. Others never quite took off. What these entrepreneurs had in common wasn't failure. It was the courage to recognize when the dream had changed, when their energy was better spent elsewhere. And yet walking away is terrifying. Because if we let go, what comes next? The fear of the unknown. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to let go is that they're afraid of what's on the other side. Even if something is unfulfilling, at least it's familiar. Psychologists call this loss aversion, the idea that humans feel the pain of loss more strongly than the pleasure of equivalent gain. Kahneman and Tversky, 1979. This is why people stay in unhealthy relationships longer than they should. Because the pain of loneliness seems worse than the pain of staying. It's why someone might resist leaving a job, even if they dread it, because at least they know what to expect. But uncertainty isn't just a void, it's a possibility. In 2022, BBC interviewed a group of professionals who left high-paying corporate jobs to pursue careers that aligned more with their values. Most of them admitted that the transition was terrifying, but when asked years later, almost all of them said it was the best decision they had ever made. The fear of change was real, but what they gained, freedom, fulfillment, alignment with their true selves, was greater than what they lost. Letting go doesn't mean stepping into nothingness. It means making room for something better. Recognizing when it's time to let go. So how do you know when you're holding on to something that's no longer meant for you? It's not always obvious. There's no flashing sign that tells you when it's time to move on. But there are signs, if you're willing to look for them. It drains you, more than it energizes you. Every commitment, whether it's a job, a relationship, or a goal, requires effort. But there's a difference between something that challenges you in a meaningful way and something that consistently depletes you. If something that once excited you now feels like a burden, it might be time to ask yourself, why? You're holding on for the wrong reasons. Are you staying because it still brings value, or because you're afraid of what happens if you leave? Are you pushing forward because it genuinely feels right, or because you don't want to admit it's no longer working? The growth has stopped. Growth isn't always comfortable, but it should feel like movement. If you've been in the same place, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, for too long and nothing is changing, It's worth asking if this chapter has reached its natural conclusion. You keep making excuses for it. It's just a rough patch. Maybe it will change. I just need to try harder. While persistence is important, so is honesty. If you find yourself constantly justifying why something is still in your life, it might be time to reconsider. The thought of letting go brings relief, not just fear. It's normal to feel fear about change. But if, underneath the fear, there's also relief, that's something worth paying attention to. Letting go is not the same as giving up. And there's a difference between quitting because something is hard and letting go because something no longer serves you. One comes from avoidance, the other comes from wisdom. In her book, Rising Strong, Brené Brown describes the process of releasing something as an act of courage, not weakness. She explains that letting go is not a passive act. It's an intentional decision to close one door so another can open. This is true in every area of life. Letting go of an old identity makes room for reinvention. Letting go of toxic relationships makes space for healthier connections. Letting go of a dream that no longer excites you allows you to pursue one that does. When you let go, you aren't losing. You're making space to receive. A practical approach to letting go. If you feel like it's time to release something but don't know how, start small. Give yourself permission. You don't need a perfect reason to let go. Sometimes, this no longer feels right is enough. Acknowledge the grief. Even when letting go is the right choice, it can still hurt. Honor the loss, but don't let it keep you stuck. Shift the narrative. Instead of seeing it as a failure, reframe it as a transition. What lesson did this experience teach you? Take the next small step. You don't need to have everything figured out. Just take the next step forward, no matter how small. Final thought: the freedom of moving forward. Letting go is rarely easy. It requires trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the unknown, trust that what's ahead is worth stepping into. But every time you let go of something that no longer fits, you make space for something that does. If you ever see me making a change, if you ever notice me shifting directions, understand that it's not because I'm lost. It's because I've learned to listen when something is no longer meant for me. And maybe, just maybe, the same is true for you. Questions for reflection. Is there something in your life that you've been holding on to? Not because it brings you joy, but because you're afraid of what happens if you let go? If you weren't worried about disappointing others, what decision would you make? How would your life look different if you stopped forcing something to work and instead opened yourself to new possibilities? What belief about giving up is keeping you stuck? If letting go wasn't a loss but a step toward something better, what would you release today? A quiet invitation. This week, pay attention to what no longer feels aligned. It doesn't mean you have to make a drastic change overnight. Just start noticing. Observe what drains you. Observe what excites you. And when the time comes to let go, trust that you will have the strength to do it. Because sometimes, the best step forward isn't holding on. It's having the courage to let go.